All right, so some basic information. This presentation is going to be recorded and used as a resource. So please keep yourself muted primarily. I think the video shouldn't be an issue, but if there's any glitchiness, just try turning your video off. You can also try hide non-video participants, but I believe that how we have it set up right now, you should just be seeing myself, my presentation, and the ASL interpreter. So again, please use the chat and we'll begin. So the agenda, we had a nice little quick meeting of some of the team members. Then we'll discuss accessibility. We'll discuss general RACC information and then get into the call, the overview of the call, the themes, the eligibility. And then I'll go through and kind of share about some of the art collections. And then we'll discuss the portal in which your application will be sent into, and then discussion process, or sorry, selection process, timeline, and then discussion. So we are providing ASL interpretation today. If anyone needs additional translation services, we're here to support everyone who wants to apply. So please let us know what you need in the chat or email us later, and we will make a new version of the presentation for you. Okay, so a little context. In real life, this is RACC. The RACC offices are downtown Portland in the Pearl District area along the park blocks near PNCA, but most of us are working remotely still. And let's see. So RACC consists of a few different departments. There's advocacy and development and grants, public art, and education, and we provide resources for artists. We're an independent nonprofit that's funded by the city of Portland and Multnomah County, also Metro, and some private sources. Our focus is providing access to arts and culture and serving many communities in that way with networking and workshops, technical assistance, programs, and advocating for equity, inclusion, and access. So here is some of that language. And all right, so grants. Grants has not too much on the immediate horizon, to be honest. They're a bit in an odd moment right now, but they've been focusing on Make, Learn, Build, which is a new grant that allows artists to select between 3 options of support. The first option would be creation of work. The second would be skill building and like learning. And then the third is building mostly for arts businesses. So they're going to announce awards at the end of the month for that program. And then they have additional processes and new opportunities that they'll be announcing this late spring. So do keep in touch with us because some new programs and support is on the horizon. So the public art team, we do so much. It's kind of impossible to discuss the amount or discuss this in depth today because of all that we need to cover. But we do collections, care, and maintenance. That's 2D artwork, 3D, outdoor projects. We care and provide ongoing maintenance for those. Some of those projects are include, technology, and they're just a very wide breadth of work. Percent for art programs, public funding, and temporary public art projects, murals, the visual chronicle collection we're going to talk about today, the portable works collection we'll talk about today. Support Beam is a newer initiative that supports emerging artists of color in just continuing their creative practice without much of a expectation of production. And then there's other calls like this often, and artists in residence programs, that's exciting. And Black Portland Matters Art and Placemaking Initiative. There's some new collaborations we're working on with Portland Bureau of Transportation and other community organizations, and then continuing to respond to communities' needs. I know that was so much, and I just feel like a little sad we can't get into all of it right now. But so today we're really just going to focus on the 2D artwork and those collections. Okay, so what is a call for art? That is an open call inviting artists to submit work for purchase, finished work. So a panel of curators and artists, administrators, community members, city and county staff, they'll come together and select the artwork for purchase through multiple rounds of scoring and virtual discussion. So here's some details about this particular call. The work purchased will enter the public art collection, and that collection is installed in city and county buildings throughout the region. Artists will be notified which sub-collections the work will enter into, and we'll discuss those two sub-collections today. Let's see. So the funding for the purchase work and including framing is about $250,000. So that is just an indication of how big this purchase is, because normally our purchases are quite a bit less than that. So that just means that we have the capacity to purchase more work, and that's really exciting. We have a preference to spend a $1,500 maximum on a single artwork, or approximately that amount, just because we have a certain quantity we're hoping to get for the collections, and also to spread our resources as much as possible to as many artists as possible. So there are themes for this call, and the themes are community, craft, and place. And I'll get into that in a little more detail, but I also do want to say that abstract interpretations of those themes are okay. So artists in the application, artists will select which of the following themes are applicable to their submitted works. So you can choose multiple themes if they're relevant. You can choose one theme if that makes more sense for you. Community, so the work would express networks, belonging, and collaboration. Craft, the work is traditional or contemporary craft-based work. And then place, the work explores the changing cultural, social, environmental, and urban landscape of Portland or Oregon. And again, abstract interpretations of those themes are welcome. And in the application, you'll see a question, and then you can just select any or all of the themes that are applicable to all of the work that you're submitting. And we will process that information. So some of the details of the call include that we are looking for unframed work, prints, paintings, photographs, drawings, textiles, collage, bas relief, mosaic, glass, ceramic, metal. It really does expand. It goes on and on. So we're open to many different kinds of media as long as the work can be framed and can be maintained over a long period of time somewhat easily. And we're not accepting electronic work or work that has a depth greater than 4 inch. So 4 inch coming off of the wall. The preference for work is 30 by 40, 30 inch by 40 inch, and then with that 4 inch depth. We will consider larger pieces, but we're going to be acquiring a lot more of the smaller scale work for this purchase. And that 4 inch depth of the artwork coming off the wall, that is it's an ADA requirement too for devices, wheelchairs, different mobility devices to pass through hallways. So 4 inch, it's also so we can manage installing these works and bringing them throughout buildings and traveling with them. So let's see. Okay, eligibility. This opportunity prioritizes artists in underrepresented communities. That includes artists who identify as Black, Indigenous, Latinx, Asian, Pacific Islander, and people of color, people that identify within the LGBTQIA+ communities, and artists with disabilities. That include like physical, cognitive, developmental, and on. And artists from Oregon. Artists have to be from Oregon for this purchase. Okay, so now we'll dive a little bit into the collections, which is very exciting. And actually, Yvonne is here, and he may want to jump in at some point to discuss work, the work that he does, which is installing these 2D pieces. But I'm going to just continue ahead. This collection, the Portable Works collection, that's the 2D artwork in the public art collection. And this collection began 25 years ago and contains about 1,600 pieces of artwork. I think that's the right number. Danielle will know. And the collection strives to reflect diversity of Portland's populations in the surrounding areas, diversity of approaches to art, and points of view. So these 2D artworks, they rotate in those city and county office spaces. Those spaces are publicly accessible, and some examples of them, like this picture, there are offices, lobbies, they could be in City Hall, in libraries, in different bureaus, offices, waiting rooms, health centers. There's quite a range of public spaces that your work would be displayed in, and it rotates. So work would be shown for, I think it's about a 5-year window or quicker of rotating in these different exhibitions. Here's another example of the Portable Works collection. And This is within the Portland building, newly renovated Portland building. And these are salon style installations of mostly BIPOC artists. It's really beautiful work, and it hasn't really been celebrated yet because the building hasn't really reopened to the public yet because of COVID. So hopefully soon people can go and see that work. Here's some more examples of artwork in the Portable Works collection. These are lithographs by James Lavador. Here's a painting by Ralph Pugai called Cattle Rave. These are Giclée prints by Sean Peterson. Here's a piece by Marie Watt. And then this piece kind of just is an example of that 4-inch maximum depth coming off of the wall. So the other collection that your work might be entered into is the Visual Chronicle of Portland collection. And this is a long-running program that archives the changing landscapes of Portland. And it began in 1985. There's there's almost 400 pieces in the collection, and all of it is works on paper. The artwork documents, records, interprets the changing culture, social and urban landscapes of Portland. So here's an example of a recent purchase by Joe Cantrell, and it's a symphony musician performing outside during COVID. Here's a piece by Sharita Town, a screen print piece. And here's a piece by Elijah Hassan, photograph. That is an inkjet print. Dana Parisa made this gouache and Conti crayon painting. All right, so I believe I covered what I needed to. Yvonne, if you want to jump in and talk about any of the work you do with the collection, you're welcome to.
Maybe I could just pop in to say that it's a really great opportunity to both get exposure with your art being in really cool locations, new buildings, but also to have it framed beautifully. And usually these art installations can be put up in City Hall, like the mayor's office or Congresswoman Bonamici's office. So it's a great opportunity to just get some added exposure um, and be a part of a collection that has some great artwork.
Yeah, and Yvonne curates really beautiful installations of work. So it's, it's really amazing to see how these pieces live in the future. Okay, so now we can talk about the opportunity portal, which is the website where your application exists. So also Danielle, you're welcome to jump in and talk about this as well, but I can go over these bullet points. That the application consists of 6 images of finished artwork. And I should say that those 6 images each have 2 pictures. So you can represent your work and then like a second detail shot or some other perspective of that artwork. So each 6 work samples have 2 images per work sample. And then with those, you'll enter things like title, media, year, purchase price, and you have the option of submitting conceptual description, and that's really helpful. That just allows, it really just gives the panel a deeper understanding of your work, and those conceptual descriptions eventually will get displayed next to your artwork when it's exhibited. Artists will have the option of submitting a resume or CV or a bio or just a list of creative accomplishments. And then also artists will submit an artist statement that just again like breathes life into your application and gives the panel an idea of your approach to artwork and your creative practice. And don't worry if you don't have a website for your artwork, you can link your social media if you feel like that is a good representation of your artwork. Danielle, would you mind talking a little bit about the portal?
Sure. Sorry, finding my mute button. So yeah, the application portal, it's used by all of RACC for grants and for the public art program. And you'll need to, if you don't already, have an account in the portal. So you go online, create an account. And once you're in there, you can see what opportunities are available to you. And hopefully it's pretty intuitive. You can go in, start your application. But if you do encounter any problems, please feel free to email me or Morgan and just reach out. We're happy to help in whatever way we can. Yeah. So this is kind of that view of you go in, you're logged in, you start your application, and this is what you're going to see. There are 2 tasks. If you look on the right side, it shows what the tasks are. Those are basically the 2 forms you have to fill out to submit your application. The first being a demographic form. And then the second is the actual application itself, which Morgan went over the requirements for that application, the materials you'll need. And yeah, you just go through, enter in each field. You can click finish and save. If you need to leave and come back, you can do that, save it before you do a submit. And you'll eventually end up coming back to this page. You can review it before you submit. If everything looks okay, hit that submit button and it will come to us. And you should get a confirmation email once that goes through.
Awesome, thank you. So the deadline, or the timeline, I should say, to submit your work is by, nope, I'm sorry, that date is wrong. March 25th. Uh-oh, don't look at that date. I'm sorry. That is my mistake. So the applications are due March 25th by 5 p.m. So the opportunity portal is where those applications are, and that is racc.org/apply. And then also that's linked on the call PDF. So you'll find all of this information listed there. Additional tips, definitely check out the collection online. You can see all the work, the 2D work, the 3D work. Just visit raccpublicart.org. This is kind of a new art search, and we're excited to share work that way. Ask questions, so definitely email myself or Danielle with any questions. And maybe the emails are in the chat. They're also on the call PDF. And if the portal for submitting your application is challenging, just let us know. So here's a little screenshot of what that public art search page looks like. And you can explore pieces in the Visual Chronicle collection and pieces in the Portable Work collection, as well as many others. So the selection process is, well, there is a panel that's made up of artists, as I said, administrators, community members, and city and county staff, curators, people of all different backgrounds, you know, all different approaches to art. And they come together and they score the artist's applications. And that's an online process. And artists are selected based on their originality of vision, their relation to the concepts, and their overall suitability for public display. So that would mean that the work does not show images of nudity or violence. It's not triggering a traumatic response. So we have kind of a trauma-informed approach to acquiring work and displaying work in public spaces. I would just reiterate that the artist statement and images, they really breathe life into your application. So if you can spend a little time on your statement and the conceptual background for work, I think it really helps. And just be authentic. So the timeline again, submit the applications by March 25th by 5 p.m. The public art team reviews for eligibility. That's one of the first steps of the process. Then the panels read and score the work online independently. Then the panel meets on Zoom together and discusses the high scoring artwork in detail. And they advocate for work, and it's a really interesting process. Lots of meaningful conversations. So that all happens online for now. And then late April / early May, that will be when the artists are notified of if their work is selected. Also, they'll be notified if their work is not selected. Purchase contract will be completed. Then there'll be a delivery of the artwork. And then payments are processed. Actually, I think payments are processed. I don't remember. I think payments are processed after we receive the work. And then artists complete a conservation record form, and that just kind of helps us know what the material is and if it ever needs maintenance, how to approach that, what media to use, and lists the value of the work. No more. Okay, and more process details. Because a lot of the scoring of work happens online. All of it does. They try to include the highest quality of documentation that is available to you. We also understand that that is difficult for a lot of artists, so we take that into consideration. But as best as you can, if you can try to get high quality documentation, that really helps us see the work. Let's see. So the call PDF has all of this information that I've covered, including information about the themes and the details. Panel feedback may be available, but it can be difficult when there's a large amount of applications. We just can't give every artist attention, but do email if you'd like feedback, and we'll do our best to provide it. The panelists have, we have a policy, a conflict of interest policy. So if there's a real or perceived conflict of interest, then they will refrain from scoring artwork. That's like if the panelists and the artist have like a financial relationship or a personal relationship that would prevent them from viewing the work without bias. So the selections take into account the budget and the panel rankings, and the underrepresented communities will be prioritized. And let's see. Yeah, everyone will be notified via email. Okay, so here are our emails. If you have any questions, please reach out. My name is Morgan Ritter, and my email is mritter@racc.org. And if there's any overall questions, please do get in touch. And then Danielle D. Davis at RACC.org. She's especially expert on the portal. So get in touch with her if you have like specific application questions or like technical questions. She's the best person to talk to. And then also you can sign up for a public art email list on the RACC website. And that's it. So please, I haven't been checking the chat, so I'm really curious if people have been asking questions, but I think I'll stop sharing my screen. I do want to remind people to follow RACC, RACC's Instagram at RegionalArts. There you can learn about all kinds of upcoming opportunities and activities, projects that we're working on. Okay, so I will stop my share. And it looks like people were using the chat, so that's really great. And now we have about 20 minutes for a Q&A discussion. So if anyone has questions they want to discuss live, feel free to turn on your video and jump in.
Hi, I have a question. I'm Bonnie Meltzer, and I do work that is I have some work that is under 4 inches, but is dimensional and is very sturdy. And I noticed that Darlene's work did not have a frame on it. And I couldn't tell how dimensional that work was. Do you use a shadow box rather than a frame, or do you have a choice of sometimes just using the work on the wall if it's sturdy enough? Do you know which pieces I mean? They were kind of like baskets.
Yeah, so yeah, we do frame sort of dimensional or like sculptural work that's wall mounted. That can be either framed in a shadow box, or if it's stable enough, it could potentially be without a frame. It really depends on its material.
Yeah, I have a specific piece in mind, and I don't want to submit it if it wouldn't work in a regular frame. It would work in a shadow box, but it really doesn't need it.
Okay.
It's crocheted wire, and
we probably would put that in a shadow box, I'm guessing. So try to picture your work being glazed or having glass or plexiglass over it, unless it's deemed stable enough to be on its own. That could potentially be like a ceramic piece.
I don't know what you mean by stable enough.
Stable, that it wouldn't be damaged by people touching it. So ceramic or metal, that sometimes
It's a crocheted metal wire,
Mhm.
which is, if you don't know it, it's hard unless you saw it. You know how
Yeah, we do
it's
have
stiff.
some metal wire pieces similar, and they are in a shadow box.
shadow box. That it would work because the sides, you make the shadow box so the sides are clear too, right? You would make
Oh,
in
yeah.
three-dimensional work, you would make the sides clear too.
RACC will determine how the work is framed, and it's just kind of like a longer conversation, actually.
Okay, I just didn't want to send something if it was totally not part of the,
Okay.
because you showed something that wasn't in a box.
Okay, I do think we should probably move on to some next questions, but do email if you'd like further conversation about that. Are there any other questions? Oh yeah, Kathleen.
I have a
Sorry. Yes, thank you. Yes, I have some panel paintings I'm thinking about and submitting, and they are already framed. And my choice of frame is conceptually a part of the work. How I know that RACC often will reframe pieces, and that makes sense to have a consistency within the collection, but how do you deal with work whose the framing is part of its conceptual context?
I'm really glad that you brought that up. So if it is conceptually integral, state that in your conceptual description with that work sample. We will likely accept that and keep that frame if it's integral to your work. But also there's like the caveat that we might choose to reframe it, but do make a case for why it's conceptually important, and we will do our best to honor that.
Okay, but that wouldn't eliminate the work from consideration.
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Brandy?
Hi, thanks.
Hi.
I was wondering, just sort of in your opinion, if you thought it was better to stick with one body of work, or if it's okay to submit like, 3 pieces from one body of work and 3 pieces from another. Like if it seems that, anyways, yeah, that's my question. I'll stop talking now.
I really encourage you to submit work from any amount of any different bodies of work.
Okay.
This is not like, it doesn't have to be a cohesive body of work, but it's really up to the artist. The work is going to be purchased individually, not as a body. So if you can find a way to maybe come up with some kind of artist statement that may sort of unify the different pieces, that might help, but we're definitely open to pieces from different bodies of work.
Okay, great. That answers everything I was thinking about. Thank you.
Oh, good. Does anyone else have questions? Oh, I hear somebody.
I have a question. You mentioned the, what was it called? Visual Chronicle of Portland. Are these also going to be considered for that automatically, or is that a separate application?
That, yeah, so your work may enter that collection, or it might enter the Portable Works general collection. Both of those are sub-collections of the public art collection.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. So RACC will determine which pieces go into which collection.
Okay, thank you.
Morgan, this is Keith. We had a question come up about how recent visual chronicle pieces needed to be. And is it 1 year? I know we used to do 5 years back a while ago. And I'm just wondering if you can clarify that for folks.
Danielle, maybe you might have a better idea about that. I'm not familiar with that time restriction.
I think probably Keith would know as well as me. I'm not sure we have a hard and fast rule for the time period, but the spirit of the collection is sort of documenting Portland through time from an artist's perspective. So for, this time, there's COVID and Black Lives Matters and really topical important things that are happening now. So actually having work relating to this time in Portland, I think is probably the most appropriate for that collection. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's a good answer. The panel may make exceptions, but probably works for the Visual Chronicle are going to be more competitive if they are more recent. We can kind of leave it at that.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Are there any other questions? Feel free to jump in if there are. It looks like, okay, it looks like there's maybe no other questions at the moment. So I would encourage people to just reach out if there are, reach out via email. Yeah, that would probably be the best way. So I'll just do a last call for questions. Okay, well, I'm not seeing anyone pop up. Thank you all so much for coming and learning a bit more about RACC and the public art collection. And nice to see all of your videos and names. Hopefully we can all meet in the future in some capacities. All right, thank you all so much.